I'm Quinn Vale, 32, a marketing manager in Boston whose career climbed faster than I could have imagined. For 6 solid years, I covered my parents' mortgage, nearly $170,000, month after month without a question or pause, believing that's simply what family was meant to do. Then, without a single word of gratitude, they transferred the house to my sister as her wedding gift, erasing every sacrifice I'd made as though it were pocket change. It hit me like a slap in the face, not just from the betrayal, but from how easily they dismissed my efforts. Barely a week later, their nerve reached new heights. They called, insisting they move into my Cape Cod vacation home, as if it were their right after everything I'd already done. This time I refused sharp, direct, no apologies. That was when my father snapped. His hand flew and struck me across the face. The sting ran deeper than any insult could. It wasn't just the blow. It was realizing how far they'd go to control me. That night was my breaking point. Years of quiet resentment and buried anger crashed to the surface. What followed didn't just alter our relationship. It flipped it on its head. I was no longer their silent provider. I was someone drawing the line. Before I dive deeper, tell me in the comments what time it is, where you're watching from, and which city you're in. I want to see just how far this story travels. Let's rewind to where it all began. A small home in suburban Seattle, where my family once believed love and sacrifice alone could hold us together. It wasn't fancy, just a modest 3-bedroom ranch tucked into a quiet block with decent schools and neighbors who kept to themselves. We lived paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from real trouble. Mom worked the register at a corner grocery, ringing up lottery tickets and canned soup for faces just as tired as hers. Dad drove trucks across the Pacific Northwest, his palms rough from endless hauls through storm-soaked highways. They gave everything just to keep food on the table and the lights on. Luxuries were out of reach. Birthdays meant boxed cake mixes, and vacations were day trips to a park if weather allowed. Everything changed when Dad got laid off. Harold Baxter had spent 30 years hauling freight for the same company, rising before dawn to dodge I-5 traffic and collapsing into bed after 14-hour shifts. Nearing 60, his back was already giving out from decades of heavy lifting and tight turns. Then the plant closed overnight. Automation and cheaper overseas routes wiped it out. His severance, barely enough to cover groceries for a couple of months. Mom, Karen Baxter, tried picking up extra shifts, but her part-time cashier gig couldn't sustain a family. Bills piled up like storm clouds, and foreclosure notices began to fill the mailbox. I still remember the night Dad called. I just started my first full-time job, fresh out of college, but his voice cracked over the phone like gravel under tires. "Quinn, we're drowning here," he said. I could see him in my mind, sitting at the kitchen table staring at overdue statements. Mom chimed in from behind him, steady but strained, her tone laced with quiet panic. They weren't asking outright, not yet, but the desperation was loud that I couldn't let them lose the house that held every memory. Scraped knees, school plays, dinners by candlelight during outages. So I stepped in. I'd earned a partial scholarship for marketing at a state university, the kind that promised security if you hustled. The rest I covered with loans and long cafe shifts between lectures. Those years blurred together. Ramen noodles, sleepless nights, and endless study sessions. But I graduated at the top of my class and landed an entry-level job at a mid-sized Boston agency. Moving east was a gamble, trading the damp Pacific air for crisp New England winters, but it paid off. Promotions came quickly. Junior analyst, then account exec, then team lead, until I made manager with a 6-figure salary, handling campaigns for tech startups. It wasn't billionaire wealth, but it meant stability. And that cozy Cape Cod cottage by the sea, my escape from deadlines and noise. By the time Dad lost his job, I was finally secure. The first mortgage payment, I wired the next morning. $2,800 marked home assistance from Quinn. It was meant to tide them over until Dad found steady work again. Maybe a warehouse or delivery job. But opportunities for men his age vanished fast in an economy bleeding manufacturing jobs. He picked up odd handyman gigs, fixing faucets and patching roofs for half the normal rate, while Mom stuck to her grocery shifts. That temporary help turned into months, then years. I kept sending money every month without fail, because that's what family does. But it came at a cost. I delayed my retirement savings, skipped the Italy trip my colleagues bragged about, and passed up social events that could have advanced my career. Weekends vanished into spreadsheets and strategy decks. I didn't complain, at least not out loud. Every few months I'd fly back to Seattle, roll up my sleeves to mow the lawn or take Mom to her doctor's visits, trying to ease their load. They'd hug me tight at the door, Dad muttering thanks over steaming coffee. Mom would pack leftovers into my bag, pressing foil down tight. "You're a godsend, Quinn," she'd always say, and for a while that felt like enough. My sister Lauren took a very different path. One that looped through dead-end jobs and skipped responsibility entirely. She drifted from retail counter to coffee shop, never long enough to climb anywhere. Community college fizzled out after one semester. "Not my vibe," she'd shrug. Then post selfies from brunch spots or flaunt shopping hauls on Instagram. Our parents never asked her to help or step up. When she rolled back home at 25 after yet another breakup, they cleared out the spare room instantly, charging her a token rent that didn't even cover her marathon showers. I bit my tongue. Family's family, right? But inside it gnawed at me. How easily the rules bent for her while mine stayed carved in stone. Still I stayed steady. That's what you do. I kept paying for home repairs out of pocket, the furnace when winter bit hard, shingles after storms. Quietly proud I'd kept their roof standing. I had no clue that those transfers weren't building any equity. They were paving the road to a betrayal I'd never see coming. Then one damp autumn night, Lauren brought home Derek Vaughn, and the air grew thick with his self-congratulating stories. It was one of Mom's spontaneous dinners. A store-bought rotisserie chicken, mashed potatoes whipped in the old mixer, and a half-hearted salad. Dad fired up the backyard grill for effect, though the cold bit through his jacket. The four of us squeezed around the wobbly dining table that had survived 3 decades too many. Lauren glowed like she'd won something. I'd flown in from Boston for the weekend, expecting a simple sibling catch-up, but the sparkle in her voice hinted otherwise. In walked Derek Vaughn, all polish and practice charm, rolling up in a shining BMW coupe that screamed new money. 34, sharp jawline, suit cut to perfection, handshake like he owned the air around him. "Pleasure to meet you all," he said, flashing a grin too bright to be real. Over appetizers, he launched straight into monologues about his world. A top salesman for luxury cars at a downtown dealership, he bragged. "Closed a deal last week on a 7 Series for a Silicon Valley exec," he said, swirling his wine. "People don't buy cars from me, they buy status. One signature, and he's pocketing commissions that could buy an island." Mom was entranced, her fork frozen midair. Dad nodding with approval. I played along, passed the bread, asked polite questions. But when dinner hit the table, Derek turned to me. "So, marketing manager, huh? That's cool, creative stuff. But tech, man, that's a gamble. One viral campaign in your golden next quarter crickets. Real money's in assets, real estate, cars. I pulled in more last month than most agency people see in 6. His laugh was light, but the tone stung, half challenge, half dig. I smiled back, stirring my potatoes. "It's volatile, sure. But building brands lasts longer than flipping stock." Inside, though, warning bells rang. The way he dropped client names felt staged. A performance more than conversation. Every word screamed ego. Halfway through dessert, Mom's apple crisp from her old church cookbook, my phone buzzed under the table. A text from Sophie Reed, my HR friend back at the agency. "Heard about your sister's guy. Sounds slick, too slick. Check him out. Guys like that usually shine brighter than the truth." Sophie had a nose for red flags, and her message landed like ice water. I slipped my phone away, glancing at Lauren, wrapped around Derek's arm, giggling at his story about a celebrity test drive gone wrong. She was glowing, blind to the undertone. For a moment, I wondered if this was just her next rebound, dressed in a luxury suit. Dinner ended with handshakes and the usual promises to do this again soon. Derek kissed Lauren's cheek before heading to his hotel, leaving her floating in the afterglow. As I helped Mom clear the dishes, Lauren cornered me in the kitchen, a ring already glittering on her hand, though she hadn't announced it. "He's the one, Quinn," she said, eyes bright. "For months, and it's like we've known each other forever. Met him at a dealership event, he was showing off that BMW and boom, sparks." I rinsed a glass, choosing my words. "Sounds fast. You sure you're not rushing?" Her face stiffened. "Not everyone buries themselves in work like you. Some of us actually want a life, marriage, a home that works. Derek gets that." The news spread quick. 2 weeks later, Lauren called a family Zoom, me at my Boston desk, Our parents on their living room couch. We're engaged, she squealed, shoving her hand at the camera. Dad's voice turned flat, defense sharpened. She needs a clean start, Quinn, stability we never had. Your help kept the lights on, sure, but this is about her future. Lauren cut in before I could reply, her tone slicing through the air. Always the martyr, huh? Quinn can't stand when someone else wins. She hates seeing me land on my feet. The accusation hit like salt in a raw wound, twisting years of sacrifice into something small and bitter. I shoved my plate aside, the chair scraping back hard. Jealous? I've skipped vacations, maxed my credit cards for repairs you never thanked me for. This isn't jealousy, it's erasure. Dad's jaw tightened. Decisions made. Papers are drawn. Signings next week. Mom reached for my hand, but I was already standing. I dropped my napkin on the table. Then count me out of the signing. Keys jingled as I grabbed them from the hook. The door slammed before their voices could chase me down. Outside, Seattle's drizzle slicked the driveway, blurring with the wet sting in my eyes. Back in my rental car, I opened my banking app. Canceled the next transfer. $2,800 that wouldn't hit their account on the first. Then one by one I blocked their numbers. Dad's work phone, Mom's personal line, Lauren's constant texts. No more midnight wires. No more emergencies. No more flights home to fix their messes. If they wanted to rewrite the story without me, they could pay their own ending. The flight back to Boston passed in a haze, but obligation tugged. I booked another ticket for the wedding anyway. I landed in Seattle 2 days before the ceremony, slipping quietly into the back row of the lakeside venue as vows echoed across the water. Lauren glowed in her gown, Derek smiling like he'd won the jackpot. Then came the symbolic moment. A polished wooden key, handed over mid-ceremony. To our daughter and son-in-law, Dad announced, voice proud. The family home, a gift of love. Applause thundered. I sat still. No mention of the one who paid it off. No nod to the years I'd carried that mortgage. After the cake was cut, I gave a curt, "Best wishes, Lauren," and slipped away to catch the airport shuttle. A week later, the bitterness still clung. Lauren's radiant smile from the ceremony, the sound of applause, it all replayed. Then Mom's text pinged through. Come see the new place. Miss you already. Their new place turned out to be a high-rise apartment, glossy exterior, cramped inside. The skyline view was blocked by cranes, and rent clocked in at $3,200 a month. Dad poured weak coffee from a chipped pot. Fancy building, lousy value, he grumbled. Noise all night, stairs kill my knees. Mom nodded, stirring sugar. We broke the lease on the first one, lost the deposit. But it's a start. We sat in the living room surrounded by takeout boxes, the silence thick. Small talk fizzled out, her wedding highlights my workload, until Dad leaned forward, elbows on knees. Quinn, we've been thinking. That Cape Cod house, it's sitting empty most months. What if we moved in for a while? Just to test the coastal life. Help with upkeep, you know. Mom's voice softened. Only until we find something permanent. The rent here's bleeding us dry. Fixed income doesn't stretch far. My hands tightened around the mug, heat pressing into my palms. Temporary, huh? After you handed the house, the one I paid off, to Lauren as a wedding gift. Dad frowned. That's different. We wanted to give her a leg up. You're established, Quinn. This would be mutual, we'd help around the place. Lauren's name hung unsaid, but the math didn't add up. Mutual? She got a debt-free home worth hundreds of thousands, all from my paychecks, and now they wanted mine too. Mom's face fell. Don't make this ugly, Quinn. Lauren's young, starting out. We helped you when you left for Boston. Now it's your turn. The plea twisted into a scolding. I stood my ground. Ugly is giving away what I worked for, the sacrifices, the skipped holidays. No, the Cape Cod stays mine. Dad shot to his feet, face flushing red. Ungrateful, after all we've done. His hand came fast, the crack loud, sharp, echoing off the walls. My cheek burned, stars flashing in my vision. The shock hit harder than the slap. My father, hitting me like I was a stranger. I rose slowly, breath shaking. That's your answer, Harold. Mom gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Dad sagged onto the couch, mumbling a broken apology that dissolved into nothing as I grabbed my bag from the counter. My phone buzzed. An email from Lauren. The subject line read, reaching out to Mom's bridge club friends. Quinn's cut us off cold after the wedding gift, calling it elder neglect. Might have to involve legal if she won't bend. Prayers, the guilt-laced message ricocheted across the neighborhood, reshaping me into the villain of their story. 2 weeks later, the call came from Officer Ramirez, right there in the airport terminal, his voice cutting through gate chatter like static from a nightmare. Ms. Vale, Seattle PD. We've received a complaint from Harold and Karen Baxter, claiming you committed fraud, tricking them into signing mortgage papers they didn't fully grasp, then refusing to return the deed. My carry-on slipped off my shoulder, thudding against the tile. Fraud. Me? The word warped beneath the blur of boarding calls, but I managed a strangled response. That's insane. I have proof it was help, not ownership. He paused, calm but probing. We'll need statements, ma'am. Gather documentation. This could move to civil court quickly. The line went dead as my flight began boarding, leaving me frozen, stunned through the 5-hour haul east, replaying the absurdity like a looped reel. Back in my high-rise overlooking the Charles River, shock curdled into fury, hands trembling, I dialed Sophie Reed, the one voice I could bear. Sophie, my parents filed a police report. Fraud. Over their house. The one I paid for. Her sharp inhale cracked through the static. Quinn, oh God, that's sick. Breathe. You've got this. You're the strongest person I know. We'll untangle this. No judgment. Just that steady grounding she'd offered through layoffs, heartbreaks, and every blindside life threw. Start with facts, she said. Emails, transfers, build your wall before they swing. Her words steadied me. I hung up to the soft hum of the fridge, the apartment's silence pressing in. That night, I dove in, laptop glowing beneath the pendant light on my kitchen island. First stop, the bank app. 6 years of statements. Every transfer marked mortgage assistance, Quinn Vale to Harold and Karen Baxter, screenshot stacked. January's $2,800 labeled home stability love Q. April's note. Extra for roof repair, covers INO mention of equity, just raw proof of help, timestamps mirroring their old thank you texts. Next, emails. Hundreds. Dad's first plea, Quinn, plant closed, bills piling, can't lose this place. My reply, I've got it covered. Focus on the job hunt. Mom's gratitude bursts, you're our rock. Dinner's on us when you're home. All scanned, dated, compiled, the folder swelling into gigabytes. A digital fortress against their revision. By dawn, coffee barely cut the exhaustion, but adrenaline carried me to Nathan Cole's office that morning. A Boston native I'd met at a marketing conference 2 years earlier, family dispute specialist. Sharp suit, sharper logic. Walk me through everything, he said, yellow pad ready, espresso steaming. I laid it out. The payments, the wedding betrayal, the slap, the cutoff, now this fabricated claim. His pen moved fast. Classic escalation. False report, misdemeanor. But defamation? That's leverage. We respond with your documentation. Show intent. Assistance, not acquisition. Deed never bore your name. County records confirm transfer straight to Lauren. He leaned forward. File for retraction and damages, emotional distress, legal costs. They'll fold, or discovery will crush them. It would cost, but my savings could handle it. Do it, I said. No more forgiveness. Fueled, I opened Zillow and county records that afternoon. Their old home appeared, deeded to Lauren Baxter 3 weeks post-wedding, no liens. The apartment? Lease terminated after a month, 2 months rent forfeited. A deeper search revealed the twist. They'd moved into the finished basement of Lauren's new house. A granny suite Derek had fast-tracked through permits, no rent paid, per tax filings. Just in-laws nesting beneath their daughter's roof while the honeymooners lived above. The irony stung. They'd handed away security, only to crawl back under it once reality hit. He leased $5,000 gone in deposits and penalties from that failed, fresh start. The evidence pile grew. Bank printouts, notarized affidavit from my accountant verifying the transfers as gifts. Nathan's paralegal turned chaos into order, sealing every page into armor. Betrayal had teeth now. Documented, sharpened, readied up. By the time the Beacon Hill meeting came, the dossier sat thick between us, and when the conference room door opened, their pale faces said it all. The truth was about to detonate. Quinn's cut us off cold after the wedding gift. Claims of elder neglect now. Might need legal action if she won't compromise. Prayers. The guilt-soaked message spread like wildfire through the neighborhood, turning me into their villain of choice. 2 weeks later, the call from Officer Ramirez came, right there in the terminal, his voice breaking through the gate noise like static from a nightmare. Ms. Vale, Seattle PD. We've received a complaint from Harold and Karen Baxter, stating you committed fraud by convincing them to sign mortgage papers they didn't understand, then refusing to return the deed. My carry-on slipped from my shoulder, thudding hard against the tile. Fraud? Me? The word tangled with boarding calls and I barely got out a strangled, "That's ridiculous. I have proof it was help, not ownership." He paused, calm, professional but cutting. "We'll need statements, ma'am. Gather your records. This could move to civil court quickly." The line went dead as my flight began boarding, leaving me hollow through the 5-hour ride east, disbelief looping in my head. Back in my Boston high-rise, overlooking the Charles River, shock hardened into anger, hands shaking, I called Sophie Reed, the only person I could face. "Sophie, my parents filed a police report. Fraud. Over their house. The one I paid for." Her gasp sliced through the static. "Quinn, that's awful. Breathe. You're the strongest person I know. We'll handle this together." No judgment, no pity. Just that steady calm she'd offered through layoffs, heartbreaks, every collapse before. "Start with facts," she said. "Emails, transfers, build your wall before they swing." Her words steadied me like an anchor in the storm. I hung up, the fridge humming, the only sound in the silence. That night, I opened my laptop on the kitchen island beneath the pendant light and started digging. First stop, the bank app. 6 years of statements, every transfer marked mortgage support, Quinn Vale to Harold and Karen Baxter, screenshot stacked. January's $2,800 labeled home stability, love Q. April's note, extra for roof repair, covers INO legal fine print, no mention of equity, just proof of help, each timestamp lining up with their old thank you texts. Then emails, hundreds. Dad's first plea, Quinn, the plant closed, bills piling. Can't lose this place. My reply, I'll handle the payments. Focus on job hunting. Mom's warm replies, you're our rock. Dinner's on us when you're back. All scanned and time-stamped, the folder swelling into gigabytes, a digital fortress against their revision of history. By dawn, I paused only long enough for coffee, then headed to Nathan Cole's firm. A Boston native I'd met 2 years ago at a marketing conference. He specialized in family disputes. Sharp suit, sharper mind. "Walk me through everything," he said over espresso, yellow pad ready. I told it all. The payments, the blindside wedding gift, the slap, the cutoff, and now this ridiculous claim. His pen flew. Classic escalation. False report, misdemeanor. But defamation? Opens the door for a countersuit. We respond with your evidence. Show assistance, not acquisition. Deeds never been in your name. County records confirm transfer straight to Lauren. He leaned in. File for retraction and damages, emotional distress, legal costs. They'll either drop it or get buried in discovery. It would be pricey, but my savings could handle it. Do it, I said. No more grace left to give. Fueled, I went home and opened Zillow and county databases. Their old house popped up first, deeded to Lauren Baxter 3 weeks after the wedding, no liens. Then the apartment lease, broken after 1 month with 2 months rent forfeited. Digging deeper, I found the twist. They'd moved into the finished basement of Lauren's new home. A granny suite Derek had fast-tracked with permits. No rent paid, per tax filings. Just in-laws squatting rent-free while the newlyweds played house upstairs. The irony stung. They'd given away stability, then crawled right back under it when things went wrong. Deposit lost, at least $5,000 gone to that luxury failure. The pile grew, bank records, notarized affidavit from my accountant confirming every transfer as a gift. Nathan's paralegal turned chaos into order, binding each document into a weaponized record. Betrayal now had form, sharp, signed, undeniable. When the Beacon Hill meeting day came, the dossier sat thick and waiting on the table, and as the conference room door opened, their pale faces told the whole story. The truth was seconds from detonation.